There is a $9 billion industry that depends on you never learning what I'm about to teach you. Every spring, roughly 80% of American households walk into a garden center and buy bottles of chemicals to spray on their vegetables. We've been doing it for decades. Pest shows up, we spray. It comes back, we spray again. And the companies selling those bottles make another $3 billion in the United States alone. But 300 miles west of Manhattan, in the rolling farmland of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, there's a community of over 44,000 people who have been growing food for more than 3 centuries without buying a single bottle of synthetic pesticide. Not one. And their gardens don't just survive, they thrive. Their tomato plants are bushier. Their squash vines are cleaner. Pest damage is a fraction of what most of us endure. And I stood in one of those gardens a few years ago, staring at rows of peppers without a single aphid. And I thought, what have these people figured out that the rest of us keep paying to avoid learning? Today, I'm breaking down exactly what Amish gardeners do differently, step by step, so you can start applying it in your own garden this season. And stay until the end, because the last technique I'll share requires nothing more than an old toilet paper roll. And it's the one thing that made me feel genuinely stupid for not thinking of it 30 years ago. If this is your first time here, we uncover the buried wisdom that modern industry tried to erase. Subscribe and hit the bell, because what comes next could save your garden and your wallet forever. Let me give you some context, because this isn't just a gardening story. This is a story about a system designed to keep you dependent, and a community that quietly opted out of it centuries ago. The modern pesticide industry traces its commercial roots to the 1940s, right after World War II, when chemical companies needed new markets for the synthetic compounds they'd been manufacturing for the war effort. DDT, organophosphates, chlorinated hydrocarbons were repurposed from warfare to agriculture almost overnight. And here's the part that should make you pause. The business model was never about solving your pest problem permanently. It was about managing it just enough that you come back next season to buy more. That's not a conspiracy. That's economics. A product that truly eliminated the need for itself would be terrible business. So for 80 years, most of us have been locked in a spray cycle. Temporarily suppress, watch the pests return, spray again. Meanwhile, the Amish were in their gardens, watching the whole show and shaking their heads, because they'd already figured out something the rest of the agricultural world is only now proving with peer-reviewed science. You don't beat pests by killing them. You beat pests by building a garden where they can't survive. And that difference, that single shift in thinking, is worth more than every bottle on the shelves of your garden center combined. Let me show you how it works, and I'll start with the part that surprised me the most. The story that opened my eyes involves a man named John Kemp. If you've never heard his name, that's about to change, because what he discovered is one of the most important breakthroughs in modern agriculture. And it came from an Amish kid with an 8th grade education. Kemp grew up on a small fruit and vegetable farm in northeast Ohio. His father was the regional pesticide supplier. They were the family that tested every new chemical product first, then recommended it to other farmers. So they sprayed more than almost anyone around them. And yet, between 2002 and 2004, they lost over 70% of their 4 main crops 3 years in a row. Despite using every pesticide they had, the insects ate the plants alive, and diseases decimated them, and nothing that came in a bottle could stop it. Then something happened that changed everything. In 2004, The Kemp family rented an adjacent field from a dairy farmer. This field had never been treated with pesticides. It had been in a simple 4-year rotation of corn, small grains, and hay. They planted cantaloupe melons in both fields, the treated and the untreated, with the rows crossing right at the property line. Same variety, same planting date, same fertilizer, same fungicide applications. At harvest time, on the Kemp family soil, the soil that had been intensively sprayed for over a decade, 80% of the leaves were covered in powdery mildew. On the dairy farmer's untreated soil, infection was 0. Not 5%, not 10%. 0. You could see a perfect line right down the middle of the field where the two soils met. Identical plants, 2 feet apart. One destroyed, the other perfectly healthy. Kemp wanted to know why. And here's where this story becomes extraordinary. This 18-year-old Amish kid, who never got past 8th grade, who grew up without television, without internet, without a phone. She's walked into his local public library and started reading. Not gardening magazines, university textbooks. For 2 years, he devoured university textbooks on biology, chemistry, plant physiology, and agronomy. He ordered obscure research volumes from Germany and France through interlibrary loan. What he discovered was astonishing. Plants have an immune system, not a metaphorical one. A literal, multi-layered immune system, much like ours. And this immune system works in levels. At the most basic level, when a plant has the right mineral nutrition, specifically iron, manganese, copper, zinc, nitrogen in the correct form, and enough magnesium, it achieves complete photosynthesis. When that happens, the plant converts all its soluble nitrates into complete proteins. Yes, and here's the part that will change how you think about every pest in your garden. Insect larvae, caterpillars, tomato hornworms, loopers, and sap-sucking insects like aphids, whiteflies, and thrips feed on soluble nitrates. They literally cannot digest complete proteins. Their digestive systems are too simple. So when a plant is healthy enough to convert all its nitrogen into complete proteins, those insects land on it, try to feed, get nothing they can use, and leave. The plant hasn't killed them, hasn't repelled them. It has simply removed their food source at the cellular level. The pest starves in the middle of abundance. Read that sentence again, because it rewrites everything you thought you knew about insect control. The aphid lands on your tomato, tries to feed, finds nothing it can process, and flies away hungry. No sprays, no traps, no intervention of any kind. The plant defended itself by being too healthy to be food. And this shift in resistance can happen within 24 to 48 hours after the right minerals become available. In 2 days, a plant can go from pest magnet to pest-proof. This isn't folklore. Kemp founded a company called Advancing Eco-Agriculture in 2006, and by 2024 was advising farmers across more than 4 million acres in North America. Peer-reviewed research from institutions like Cornell, Penn State, and multiple European universities confirms that mineral-balanced, biologically active soils produce plants with stronger cell walls, higher concentrations of defensive compounds, and measurably greater pest resistance. If you're finding value in this, hit the like button right now. It tells the algorithm to show this to more gardeners who need it. Let's keep building. So here's your first practical step, and it's the foundation everything else is built on. Every spring, before you put a single transplant in the ground, spread 2 to 3 inches of well-matured compost over your beds and work it into the top 4 to 6 inches of soil. If you can get compost that includes cured horse or cow manure, even better. That combination of plant matter and animal waste creates an incredibly diverse soil microbiome. The Amish don't buy bags of synthetic fertilizer. They build the soil with compost, cover crops, and animal manure. And they've been doing it on the same plots of land for generations. The key is consistency. One application won't transform your garden. But after 2 or 3 seasons building your soil biology this way, you'll notice something extraordinary. Your plants will have thicker stems, darker green color, and they'll bounce back from minor pest attacks much faster than before. Now, this next piece is where the Amish approach starts looking radically different from anything you'll see in a conventional garden. And honestly, it's the part that made me feel the most foolish for not figuring it out sooner. Most American gardens are planted in neat rows of a single crop. Tomatoes here, beans there, squash in the back. It looks organized, makes harvesting easy. But to a pest, a long row of a single crop is a highway with neon signs and no speed limit. Amish gardeners do the opposite. They mix everything on purpose. They plant aromatic herbs and flowers directly among their vegetables. And the reason is elegant. Most garden pests find their target plants by smell. Aphids, cabbage moths, tomato hornworms, cucumber beetles, they all navigate by the chemical signals their host plants release into the air. When you surround those host plants with strong-smelling companions, you create what entomologists call olfactory confusion. The pest literally can't find your tomatoes because the basil, marigolds, and dill are drowning out the signal. It's like trying to hear someone whisper your name in a stadium full of screaming fans. Here's exactly how to set this up. For every 3 or 4 tomato plants, interplant 1 basil plant about 8 inches from the base. Basil repels aphids, whiteflies, and tomato hornworms. Between your rows of cabbage, broccoli, or kale, plant dill or cilantro every 12 to 14 inches. These herbs repel cabbage moths and imported cabbage worms. But here's the double benefit. When dill and cilantro flower, they attract parasitic wasps and hoverflies, which are voracious predators of aphids and caterpillars. You're repelling one group of pests while recruiting their natural enemies at the same time. That's not just gardening, that's military strategy with flowers. Around the edges of your beds, plant French marigolds. Not the big African pom-pom types, the smaller French varieties. Space them about 10 to 12 inches apart. Their roots release a compound called alpha-terphenol into the soil that suppresses root knot nematodes, and their above-ground scent deters whiteflies and squash bugs. Multiple agricultural universities have confirmed this in controlled studies. It's not tradition for tradition's sake, it's science refined by centuries of practice. Now, do the Amish understand something about insects that took me decades to learn and completely flipped my approach? A healthy garden isn't a garden without insects. A healthy garden is one that has the right insects. Think about this. A single ladybug can eat up to 50 aphids in one day. A lacewing larva can consume 200 aphids in its short life. Parasitic wasps lay their eggs inside tomato and cabbage worms, killing them from the inside out. Ground beetles patrol the soil surface at night, hunting slugs, cutworms, and larvae while you sleep. These creatures aren't just useful. They're your free 24-hour pest control team. And the Amish build their gardens specifically to keep these employees on staff. The simplest way to do this is to create what's called an insectary strip. A small section of your garden, even a 2-foot-wide row along one edge, is planted densely with flowers and herbs that beneficial insects need for nectar and pollen. Plant sweet alyssum in the front because it stays low and blooms all season. Behind it, alternate yarrow and dill, about 10 to 12 inches apart. If you have space, add fennel in the back. The key is continuous bloom from spring through fall, so beneficial insects always have a reason to stay. Within a few weeks of the first flowers opening, that strip will be humming with hoverflies, parasitic wasps, lacewings, and ladybugs. And once those populations establish, they'll patrol your entire garden. The Amish also leave small areas of their property intentionally wild, a patch of clover near the garden, an unmowed strip along the fence, a pile of stones where ground beetles can shelter. These aren't signs of laziness. They're habitats. Instead of trying to drive pests away from your garden entirely, the Amish sometimes invite them in on purpose and then send them to the wrong address. This is called trap cropping. You plant something the pest likes even more than your main crop and put it on the edges where it pulls them away from the vegetables you actually care about. Nasturtiums are the classic example. Aphids are wildly attracted to nasturtiums, far more than to your beans or peppers. Plant them in a ring around the outside of your garden or at the end of your rows about 6 to 8 inches apart. The aphids will pile onto the nasturtiums and leave your main crops largely alone. Once the nasturtiums are loaded with aphids, you have two choices: pull the plants and dispose of them, or better yet, or leave them and let the ladybugs and lacewings from your insectary strip come feast. You've just created a self-sustaining cycle. The trap crop attracts the pests. The beneficial insects find the pests, and your vegetables sit in the middle untouched. Think about that for a second. You haven't fought anything, haven't bought anything, haven't sprayed anything. You arranged living things in a pattern, and the pest problem solved itself. That's not just gardening. That's designing an ecosystem. For moments when pest pressure is heavier than usual, the Amish rely on homemade deterrent sprays made from ingredients already in their kitchen. Here's the recipe I learned from a Lancaster County Amish family. Take 4 or 5 garlic cloves and 2 hot peppers. Cayenne works perfectly. Chop them, add to 1 quart of warm water. Shut and let the mixture steep overnight, at least 12 hours. Next morning, strain through cheesecloth into a spray bottle and add 1 teaspoon of plain liquid dish soap. Not detergent, just simple dish soap. The soap helps the spray stick to leaves and also breaks down the waxy coating of soft-bodied insects like aphids. Spray directly on affected plants, focusing on the undersides of leaves where most pests hide. Apply early morning or evening. Never spray under direct midday sun. 1 application usually keeps pests at bay for 5 to 7 days. Reapply after heavy rain. This spray doesn't kill pests on contact like a synthetic chemical. It deters them, makes your plants smell and taste bad, so the pests move to easier targets. Combined with soil health, companion planting, beneficial insects, and daily monitoring, that's usually more than enough. And now here's something I learned from an Amish family that I've never seen mentioned in any gardening book, any YouTube channel, or any extension office publication. When the Amish transplant young seedlings into the garden in spring, they place a collar made from a simple cardboard tube around the base of each plant. They push it about 1 inch into the soil and leave about 2 inches above the surface. They use old toilet paper rolls. Some families cut paper towel rolls into shorter sections. That's it. That's the entire technique. This cardboard collar does 2 things, and both are brilliant. First, it creates a physical barrier against cutworms. Cutworms are the larvae that crawl along the soil surface at night and chew through the stems of young transplants. Most gardeners don't even know cutworms are the reason they lose seedlings. It's because the damage happens in the dark, and the evidence is just a toppled stem in the morning. Second, and this is the elegantly perfect part, the cardboard decomposes naturally in about 4 to 6 weeks. That is precisely the window of time it takes for the plant's stem to harden or lignify to the point where cutworms can no longer bite through it. The protection arrives when the plant needs it most and dissolves when the plant no longer requires it. No plastic, no waste, no chemicals, no purchases, just a piece of cardboard, and the understanding that the most effective protection isn't about dominating nature, but about sheltering a living thing during its most vulnerable moment. I started using these collars 3 seasons ago. Before that, I lost 5 to 8 transplants every spring. Since I started, I haven't lost a single one. And there's a German word that runs through every aspect of Amish life, like a river through a valley. Gelassenheit. It doesn't translate cleanly into English, but the closest meaning is something like yielding to the natural order, surrendering the need to control everything, and trusting that the system has an intrinsic balance. A balance that was designed long before we showed up, with our spray bottles and our quarterly earnings reports. It's not passivity, it's collaboration. And the garden is where you can see it most clearly. When you spray a pesticide, even an organic one, you're overriding the system. You kill the pest, sure, but you also kill the ladybugs, the lacewings, the parasitic wasps, and the ground beetles that were already working to manage those pests for free. And then you wonder why the pests come back stronger next time. Oh, it's because you destroyed the army that was defending you. The Amish don't fight nature. They set the table and let nature eat. They build the soil so plants can build their own immunity. They plant companions so pests can't find their targets. They create habitats so beneficial insects have a home. They walk the garden every morning so nothing gets out of hand. They use trap crops to redirect what they can't prevent. And when they need a little extra help, they mix something from the kitchen that deters without destroying. It's not one technique, it's a philosophy. And it has been working on the same land for the same families for over 300 years, while the rest of us have been buying bottles and spraying hope. So here's what I want you to take away. Build your soil every year with compost and cured organic matter, and plant companions that confuse pests and attract their natural enemies. Create habitats for the beneficial insects that do the hard work while you sleep. Walk your garden every morning and catch problems while they're still small. Use trap crops to pull pests away from what matters. When you need a boost, make a simple garlic chili spray that deters without destroying the system. And try the cardboard collar on your transplants this spring. It costs nothing, takes 5 minutes, and might be the most satisfying change you make in your garden this year. The Amish have been doing this for 3 centuries. Science now confirms why it works. The only thing missing is you trying it. If this changed how you see the natural balance in your garden, subscribe and hit that like button. We're rescuing the wisdom the modern world tried to bury. Let's grow a better future together. The next treasure of traditional knowledge will be revealed soon.